It's the hobby most of us fell out of love with. You probably used to love reading. Now, I'm not talking about reading scientific articles or case studies. I'm talking about books. The kind of books that made you lose track of time. The kind that made you stay up late just so you could finish the chapter and see what happens. Maybe the kind that made you want to become an academic in the first place. Reading was a huge part of my identity when I was a kid. One of my most treasured possessions was my library card. My mum got it for me at a young age, and together we'd regularly visit the local library, and I could read all sorts of books for free. I couldn't believe how lucky I was as a kid. Eventually it got to the point where I was checking out multiple books per week. I was a completely voracious reader. But then something happened. Somewhere during my education, that spark was extinguished. Maybe you feel the same way. Reading became something that you had to do, whether it was for lit reviews or publishing your own papers. And when you finally get home from work, you didn't feel like reading anymore. Instead, you go for something easy. You go for Netflix, video games, maybe you just doom scroll for an hour. It's tragic to admit, but many academics that I've met, they don't read at all in their leisure time anymore. Okay, fair enough. You're probably doing a lot of reading. Tweets, Slack threads, emails, abstracts, papers, memes. But most of what we're consuming is the equivalent of cognitive fast food. Quick hits, but no nutrition. We're overfed, but malnourished. But here's the thing. Not all reading is the same. Not all reading serves the same purpose. For example, you have reading to learn to write. This is one of the biggest missed opportunities, in my opinion. When students are learning to improve their writing for the first time, they often solely rely on things like trial and error, on constructive feedback. And while there's nothing wrong with constructive feedback per se, in fact, in my opinion, it's crucial. But most of us could improve infinitely more by reading. You see, if you read more, you'll naturally start to absorb the rhythm, the tone, and the style of that author. You also have reading for escape, okay? Reading fiction, something that lights up your imagination and your empathy. Stories teach you more about human nature than textbooks ever will. Then there's reading for self-improvement, okay? Sometimes referred to as the mental gym. You might be reading about philosophy, stoicism, psychology, maybe just reflection. Maybe you're getting into the gym and you want to know what exercises to do, or you want to improve your financial literacy. Then there's reading for knowledge, the kind that builds understanding across fields. History, politics, economics, art. You know, there was a time not too long ago when academics were polymaths, when scholars didn't just read inside their field, they read around it. And no, I don't mean if you work on influenza, you should also read about rhinovirus. I mean really reading outside your field. For example, Da Vinci was an artist and an engineer. Einstein credited playing his violin for his intuitions about harmony and relativity, and Newton studied alchemy. Okay, that one's a little bit embarrassing, but it did lead him to search for unifying laws like the concept of gravity. My point is, great thinkers didn't draw borders around their curiosity, they followed it, regardless of where it led. In fact, I've actually witnessed an academic score 0 on a pub quiz once. General knowledge, 0. Film and TV, 0. Pop culture, 0. Inside their niche, they were a genius, no denying that, but they had no breadth of wisdom.
San Diego, which of course in German means a whale's vagina.
Specialization and expertise is important, but so is wisdom. You're an academic, you know, when you're out at a bar having a drink with some friends or having coffee with them, maybe you're having a meal, how many times do you think your particular field of expertise is going to come up in conversation? Probably never. And if it does, you're talking about 0.001% of the time. Wouldn't you like to be able to talk intelligently about other topics that people find interesting? Reading is the way forward. So why do I think reading's so important? Why do I think books are so special? Well, the book is the sum total of everything someone else learned, sometimes through decades of pain and failure. And you can absorb that knowledge without having to share in the experience itself. You don't need to have survived Auschwitz to glean the most profound lessons about purpose. You can read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. You don't need to have completely lost control of your life to addiction to understand how to overcome it, how to manage it. You can read Dopamine Nation by Anna Lemke, and you don't need to have fought and bled on a battlefield to understand courage and love. You can simply read For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. That's what's so special about books. They let you live 1,000 lives without paying the price for each and every one. They're the closest thing we have to a time machine. You can inherit lifetimes of experience in a single weekend. You can communicate, although it's only in one direction, with a person who died centuries before you were even born. And you can incrementally improve your life, your skills, your abilities by implementing the knowledge you gain from these texts. Obviously, we're living in an era where books have never been more accessible. You don't even have to leave the sofa. One click and it's on your Kindle. Libraries are digital now. Audiobooks are instant. Access may have improved, but readers have declined. Most of us feel that anyway. The problem isn't scarcity anymore, it's attention. You see, we've trained our brains to skim, to scroll, and consume on a massive scale rather than sit and contemplate. Most of us who still read fiction probably absorb it through audiobooks when we're out walking. We're always multitasking, we're never just reading on its own anymore. A good friend of mine gave me a tip years ago where she said she rediscovered her joy of simple things like walking by actually removing the earphones while doing that. So she would go out on a walk, not while listening to music or a podcast or an audiobook anymore, just listening to the sounds of nature. And this goes both ways, from the walking perspective, but also to the audiobook or the book. Books are monotasks. That's actually the great advantage of a book over an audiobook, is that you have to monotask with a book. With an audiobook, you can multitask, you can be doing the dishes while you listen to it. And yes, there's an advantage to that, but there's something special about sitting down and fully enjoying the single task that you're doing, and that can be reading a book. But most of us don't do that. Most of us don't monotask anymore. Deep reading is a muscle, and most of us are experiencing atrophy. That's why just sitting down and reading a book and doing nothing else feels so difficult now. Not because it is. You know, you could read when you were a child, but it feels difficult because you've forgotten how to slow down, how to enjoy things on a slower scale without dopamine hits every other minute. So here's my challenge to you. Reclaim reading as a hobby. If this was something you enjoyed as a child, you will enjoy it infinitely more as an adult. So reclaim it, not for professional development, not as recommended reading for your field of study, just reading for its own sake, for enjoyment. Replace the 15 minutes of doom scrolling before bed with a chapter, okay? Just a chapter, maybe even a couple of pages. Start carrying a book with you for those quiet moments when you're waiting in a queue, waiting for a bus, or journeying somewhere by train. Challenge yourself, get outside your comfort zone, read fiction, philosophy, something written before 1900. In time, you'll notice your attention span will start to grow back, your writing will improve, your thinking will sharpen, and most importantly, you'll start to actually enjoy reading again. Remember, you can't write like a scholar if you don't read like one. Folks, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you always get notified when a new video comes out.